Since we got back from the trip, a lot has piled up. Other episodes must take priority and all that, and so here we are. So, we're going to talk about that big trade that happened while we were on our trip. So a lot of things happened while the three of us were in Minneapolis I don't expect it to happen. Like, for starters, national television opportunities being announced, like for the takeover tour game Detroit, and obviously the World Cup finals coming up. And I don't really wasn't expecting any trades either. Now, we were a couple of weeks away at the time. We were a few weeks away still from the trade deadline. That still felt like something that was quite in the distance, you know. And so we still didn't work that. But as we all know, teams can make trades beforehand. And this was a big one. So it happened on the 16th of March. So at that point, we had got back in from Denver, so we got back into Minneapolis from Denver. Of course, obviously, suitcase drama happened. We will not boys in Steelers that. If you want to find out more about that, then go and check out our travel diary. It's part 6. If you want to check that out. Anyway, so this happened while we got back from Denver and the Fleet and Seattle. Yeah, so it's Boston Fleet and Seattle Torrent involved in that. So the Fleet acquired Jesse Eldridge from the Torrent for Teresa Schaffazor. So Seattle there involved with their first ever trade. Of course, Vancouver beat them to it earlier in the year, when back in January the Golden Knights made that massive trade with Ottawa. They gave 3 players to the Charge. Charge obviously gives them 3 players back. So obviously, right now in the PHL you cannot trade other assets. It's only player and player. So you have to, if you trade one player to one team, they have got to receive a player back. Or in the case of Ottawa Vancouver, you give one side 3 players, they've got to give you 3 players. It's that straightforward. It is literally that simple, guys. Okay? So the Boston... there was another one that happened between Tio and New York, but I think we're not going to cover that because it was a bit confusing. Because Claire DeGeorge went to New York, and there was a lot of confusion about that. Was it a trade? Was it not a trade? I think the general consensus has been it was not a trade. It was basically like a straightforward release. So we're not gonna. I did ask Lady for advice on do we cover that or not, and they said no. Only you. They basically said if you want to cover player movements on the show, only talk actual trades, and that's what we're gonna do. So there was another one that did get make as well while we were away, but it was seen more as a straightforward release of contract rather than a trade. So just about mine. Anyway, we'll get back to this. So the Boston and Seattle Torrent completed a trade with the Fleet, acquired Jesse Eldridge from Seattle in exchange for Teresa Schaffazor. Both players are third-year veteran forwards with contracts through the current season. So Eldridge scored 7 goals and 13 points in 19 games as a member of the Torrent after being acquired in the 3rd round of the PHL expansion draft last year. The 28-year-old from Vary spent her first 2 PHL seasons with the New York Sirens, finishing 2nd on the team with a career high for 24 points, 9 goals, 50 assists there. in 30 games last season. The Colgate University graduate recently became the 9th player in PHL history to surpass the half-century mark for career points, and now stands with 51, 23 goals, 28 assists in 73 games. Shoppenhauer spent her entire PHL career in Boston after being selected in the 7th round of the inaugural PHL draft back in 2023 in Toronto, following 5 seasons at the University of Vermont. She scored the team's first ever goal back on January the 3rd, 2024, and went on to register 17 points, 8 goals, 9 assists in 69 career games, including 2 goals and 6 points in 19 games for the Fleet this season. 25-year-old from Wales, Austria, has represented her national team 7 times in competition at the IHF Division 1A Women's World Championships. Okay, so I look at this trade initiative for what are Seattle thinking, because you've got a lot of your top scorers, Harry Knight out, Hannah Bilker out, Nikia Grant-Mentis out. At the time, all 3 out. Unlikely could they or could they not return at some point. Eldridge was kind of seen as your last big points contributor. So the fact that Seattle dealt her, initially I was like thinking, what are you doing, guys? Like, literally, what are you doing? Okay, especially as these losses for Seattle were starting to pile up. I was literally thinking, what are you doing? But when you think about it, in the long haul, are Seattle going to be able to hold on to a player like Jessie Eldridge? I'm not too sure. Especially as we are pretty much all convinced there is going to be another round of expansion coming. We're all convinced by that. So, in expansion draft, do you think Seattle could protect her over the likes of Hannah Bilker, Harry Knight, Alex Carpenter? Probably not. Probably not. So, I think Seattle thought, are we able to hold on to a person long term? No. Okay, let's deal her now, and then we don't have to worry about, that's more or less big for us to worry about come the summer. Smart move, but you've dealt her to a team that also in the long haul is not going to be able to keep a player like that. I mean, let's face it, Boston's protection list is pretty much done and dusted. It's where I see Keller, Muller, Frankel. Done. We'll see if my third tier members agree on that when we get confirmation that there's going to be no expansion draft. Because when that confirmation happens, we will then start thinking lists and see who we think should or should not be protected across the league. So we'll see how it goes. We'll just look on that like we did last year. We'll just look on that when that comes. So I think Jessie Eldridge, she's a great player, and she's able to contribute really well on the team she's been on. And she could be that thing that Boston needs, you know. I mean, we look at Boston before the trade, and this is a team that, despite being where they are in the standings, haven't really generated that much offense, haven't really had many multi-goal wins. They've been kept in a lot of one-goal games, and when we're thinking about playoffs in a few weeks' time, being in one-goal games is not going to be enough to get you over the line in a series. It's not. Trust me, I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, okay? I know what I'm talking about here with the Frost, okay? So, if you look at all 4 playoff series of the last 2 seasons, weren't that... Okay, yeah, the World Cup finals last year is an anomaly, but there were quite a few multi-goal performances in those series. Okay, look them back, look them up. So I kind of feel a player like Jessie Eldridge can be really good for Boston. It might be the thing that they need. Because a team like Boston, who is pretty much a favourite to win the World Cup, you'd have thought they would have looked at that roster and think, right, is there anything we're missing? Have a look at this roster. Is there anything that you guys think that we, might be missing here, and we need to sort of, you know, get on board to officially lock in the World Cup. Is there anything we're missing here, guys? Anything? So that's my only concern with Boston. It's like, and I think by acquiring Jesse Aldridge, you have literally got what you need now to potentially go on that big run, that big tear in a few weeks' time. So yes, as I look at this trade, I thought Boston are absolute winners here, and Seattle just, I don't know what to say. Honestly, I don't know what to say. Then again, you are an expansion team. You will get the hang of it, okay? You don't learn everything in year one, okay? So you might look at that trade and think Seattle are great big massive losers here because you've given away somebody who has been a real firepower for you, especially as there's not been that many bright moments for Seattle this year. You look at a player like Eldridge and what she's managed to do, and you just think, right, what are you doing? Okay, it's like, do you want to win games or not? I know a lot of Sceptres fans will be asking that about Tio, and she's like, what are you playing at? But for Tio at Seattle, it's their first year in the PHL. Give them some slack. Give them some slack. Next year, they'll have it figured out, okay? But obviously, give them some slack. But yeah, I look at that trade and think, if I was Seattle, I'm not sure I would have made that move. I'm not sure I would have done that move. I don't think it's probably the right move to make. But yeah, and for Boston, it's brilliant because you've got someone who knows how to score goals, someone who could provide you that much needed offense. You know, in the game here, it's you just look and think, wow, yes, thank you. Merci beaucoup, Torrent. Thank you so much. We'll happily take that off your hands. Yes, no problem. They were looking at it and feel like they're the cat that got the cream. You know, just incredible for them. But no, so it was interesting. I mean, I think we were more taken aback by the fact that a trade was happening while we were in the States. Never mind what the trade actually was. And then obviously there's that hoo-ha. But I'll just quickly remind you what the hoo-ha was. Like I said, we as a trio collectively decided to make the executive decision not to cover it because it wasn't a proper trade. It was so confusing. You know, was it a trade? Was it not a trade? So we'll just clear that up. Because it did happen while we were still in the States. So we'll clear that up. What it was. Let's see if we can try and clear this mess up. Right, it was a release. It happened pretty much at the next day. So what had happened was, okay, so the Torrent Sceptres announced that the team had released forward Claire DeGeorge in order to make way for the New York Sirens to sign her for the rest of the season. So Ian Kennedy of the Hockey News announced on Tuesday that the New York Sirens, so literally the next day after this trade with Boston, so it was announced on Tuesday that the New York Sirens had acquired forward Claire DeGeorge for the Torrent Sceptres in a trade for future considerations. And this is where it got messy, because obviously with future considerations, you're like, what? It doesn't really mean much either, that phrase. So, DeGeorge was noticeably absent from the Sceptres lineup on Tuesday night when the team took on the first place Boston Fleet. She had appeared in each of the past 7 games. The move really comes to help the Sirens add a few more bodies to their forward group after the injury to Taylor Gerard. That Denver. The team had just 12 roster board with none on the reserve list. Rather than try and move someone to forward, general manager Pascal Daus managed to make a move to simply get a player on the roster for the rest of the season. George signed a 1-year contract with T.O. this past summer, adding a little bit of depth to a team that lost a few key players during the expansion process. The Anchorage Alaska Native has been in the lineup most of the season, dressing in 17 games, but her ice time has been scarce, with a few instances where she didn't play at all. The most action George saw this year came on Sunday against the Seattle Torrent, where the 26-year-old logged 9.6 ice time. She hasn't scored a point so far this season. And it's the fourth team that she's been a part of. She was part of the Minnesota squad that won the inaugural World Cup in 2024, before spending last season with the Montreal Victoire. In 66 career games, she has just 3 assists, having failed to register a point in 11 postseason games. So that clears out. So that was basically just a release. It was a bit confusing because it did initially, it got worded as a trade, and then the confusion was, oh no, it's only future considerations. Because of course you can't really do that in the future. So you can't do that. If you're gonna do a trade, it has to be player for player. Okay, so you can't do that. You have to basically, okay, so that's the way it works. You can't just go around doing situations. It's a simple trade. That's the way it works. Now you trade players. You do not do anything else. So it got confusing. But no. So the situation for New York T.O. that was not a trade. It's just a simple T.O. released a player and New York snapped her up. That is how it worked. Okay, that is how it worked. All right. So that's all. That is all cleared up now. We don't need to go any further on that front. Okay. So but to finish off with this trade between Boston and Seattle, Boston wins this trade outright, and I think that the Eldridge will be a huge boost for them come playoffs in a few weeks' time. The question will be, and this will be for the summer. The question will be, is can she stay on that roster? Because I think she pretty much would be a good target for any new up-and-coming expansion team to strike. So we'll see what happens. In that front. But for Boston, cat that got the cream in Seattle, you need to learn how to make good trades. That's what I'm going to say. So we'll leave that there. Like I said, I know it's been quite late, but as you guys know, it's been busy. It's been busy on the show ever since we've got back. It's been very busy. Very busy. Yeah. So I did work. I was going to give my thoughts on that eventually. Just obviously it's taken quite a while. Anyway, so that'll be all until next time, guys. Take care.